Step into the quietest place on earth, and your body becomes the loudest thing in the room. Your heart's beating. The gentle sound of your joints popping. The soft flow of blood in your veins. Sounds that are usually drowned out by the world suddenly take center stage. An anechoic chamber is a special room made to soak up all sound. At -20 decibels, it is louder than the silence of empty space. A whisper is about 30 dB. What is normal breathing? Around 10 dB. Silence is not only tolerated in this room, it is eradicated. Most people can't handle more than a few minutes inside. Some feel dizzy. Others hear phantom sounds. Many just panic. Why does such a place exist? And what happens when silence becomes deafening? Let's step inside. What is an anechoic chamber? Silence isn't accidental, it's carefully created. An anechoic chamber is not your average peaceful space. The sound is not only muted but completely gone. Every sound, from whispers to footsteps, is silenced, leaving no trace. The only sounds that remain? The ones that are part of you. How does it work? It starts with thick concrete and steel walls, sealing off all outside noise. Then, every inch of the interior, walls, ceiling, even the floor, is covered in massive fiberglass wedges. These strange, jagged panels trap sound waves before they can bounce back, creating an environment with zero reverberation. Even the floor isn't solid. Most chambers use a mesh or suspended platform, so footsteps don't create the slightest echo. The result? Pure silence. Orfield Laboratories in Minneapolis once held the Guinness World Record for the quietest place on Earth at -13 dB. Then Microsoft built one even quieter. Their chamber in Redmond, Washington, plunges to -20.35 dB, a level so extreme, it's quieter than the vacuum of space. But silence this deep comes at a cost. Most people can't last more than a few minutes before things start to feel off, the sensory overload of complete silence. Silence is meant to be relaxing. But inside an anechoic box, it feels very different. When the door closes, the outside world vanishes. There is no sound from faraway cars. No noisy clothes. No echoes. Just a spooky emptiness. Then, your body takes over. Your heartbeat pounds in your ears. Your breathing sounds impossibly loud. Joints crackle as you shift. Some people hear a faint ringing, like their ears are begging for noise. Others feel dizzy, disoriented, and almost detached from reality. And the longer you stay, the stranger it gets. Some report hallucinations, phantom whispers, imaginary footsteps, sounds that aren't really there. The brain, desperate for input, starts making things up. It's the same phenomenon people experience in sensory deprivation tanks. Most can't handle more than 30 to 45 minutes. The longest anyone has lasted? Just over an hour. Why does quiet, which we often want, feel so hard to handle? The answer comes from how our brains understand sound. Why extreme silence feels unbearable. The human brain keeps processing sound, even when we're asleep. But in an anechoic room, that familiar noise disappears. When in need of information, the brain looks inside itself. Suddenly, you notice your heartbeat, your joints making noise, and your blood flowing feel much stronger. It's like someone increased the volume in your head. Without outside sounds, your understanding of space begins to fade. Nothing but nothingness, with no echoes or reflections. Some people feel confused. Others fall out of balance. Then, the silence becomes too much to handle. Phantom sounds come not from the room, but from the brain trying to make sense of silence. What begins calmly quickly turns into a challenge of endurance. The science behind the silence. Absolute silence feels unsettling because our brains are wired for sound. Even when we don't notice it, we're constantly processing background noise, air conditioning, footsteps, distant hums. In an anechoic box, all sound goes away. At first, it looks calm. Then, the silence becomes intense. When there's no outside noise, the brain focuses on internal sounds that it usually ignores, like your heartbeat, blood flow, and joints moving. Finding it hard to understand emptiness, it begins to change what is real, the psychological effects of extended silence. At first, silence seems like a peaceful escape. No distractions, no chaos, just stillness. But the longer you're immersed in it, the more you start to feel its weight. What begins as curiosity or calm quickly morphs into something more unsettling. Thoughts grow louder, spiraling into loops. With no outside sound to break the pattern, the mind fixates. The heartbeat is almost deafening. Every shift of your body feels magnified. The mind starts grasping at whatever it can, desperate for something, anything to focus on. And when it doesn't find it, fear and anxiety can begin to creep in. Studies show that extended periods without sound can alter our psychological state. In extreme silence, people experience heightened isolation, fear, and sometimes even paranoia. The world outside feels distant. Reality starts to feel a little less real. This is why most people can't tolerate long stays in an anechoic chamber. It's mentally exhausting. The silence becomes a heavy presence, and the urge to escape grows stronger. The physical effects of silence. At first, quiet can feel relaxing. Your senses become sharper, and you become more aware. Over time, quietness begins to have an effect. Even the quietest sounds, like your heartbeat or breathing, can feel too much. Your body responds. Your muscles tighten, you feel pressure in your head, and your breathing sounds too loud. Without outside sounds, your inner ear has a hard time keeping you balanced, which can make you feel confused. Silence, which used to be calm, now causes stress. Without distractions, your body remains very aware, almost like it's sensing risk. Feeling tired comes not from being active, but from the heaviness of being still. In a nutshell, the quietest room in the world provides a surprising experience. We want quiet, but too much of it can be uncomfortable. A little bit of quiet can boost inspiration or give you a break, but too much quiet can make it hard for the mind to adjust. It makes internal sounds louder, causes worry, and makes us doubt our own purpose. The important thing is to keep a balance. Finding your way in the world, noise and all, is the goal of practicing silence, not fleeing from it. True happiness comes from finding balance. The silent room teaches us about the strength of silence, but it's when silence and sound come together that we see our true potential.